Hi guys, so this is part 5 of Fahrenheit 451. This is pages 29 through 37. So starting with our vocab, first one is proclivities. So Montag asks, were all firemen picked then for their looks as well as their proclivities? So a proclivity is like a tendency or disposition. If you study really hard, you might have a proclivity for staying on task and doing what you need to do. It's just kind of like a natural tendency that you have. Next word is asylum. So this is where they talk about what happens to the people who have books in their house. Beatty tells Montag that they took him off screaming to the asylum, which is like an insane asylum. Probably are familiar with that. Okay, next word is condemnation. So this is the lady who is still in the house when they get there to burn it. It says, on the front porch where she had come to weigh them quietly with her eyes, her quietness a condemnation, the woman stood motionless. So condemnation is kind of like a judgment or a blame. Think of the word condemn is the root word there. So if you're condemning somebody, you're like finding them guilty and you're blaming them for something. So the woman, imagine her just kind of standing there and staring in a very like accusatory, blaming kind of way at the fireman. Our next word is contempt. Again, talking about the woman in the house. So the quote is, the woman on the porch reached out with contempt for them all and struck the kitchen match against the railing. So contempt is just kind of like a general dislike or looking down on people. Kind of like, ugh. Like if ugh was a word, it would be contempt. Okay, moving on to our literary element. So this one we're looking at allusion. Which is a figure of speech in which an object or circumstance from an unrelated context is referred to covertly or indirectly. It's left to the audience to make the direct connection. Where the connection is directly and explicitly stated by the author, it is usually termed a reference. So from some examples here, if it doesn't start raining, I'm going to build an ark. Or my sister has so many pets, I'm going to call myself Old MacDonald. So an allusion is basically just like a quick passing reference to another work of literature, a movie, a figure, an event. Like it's just kind of something that's commonplace. So where we see that in this chapter, where Captain Beatty is yelling at the woman to leave her house, he says, "You've been locked up here for years with a regular damn Tower of Babel. Snap out of it. The people in those books never lived. Come on now." Tower of Babel is the allusion here. It's a reference to, it's a biblical story about a tower where every language and it's all spoken in that tower. So allusions are one of the reasons that it's really important to be well read and familiar with history and world figures and events and myths and legends and all that, because your understanding of literature becomes so much more in depth when you're able to catch those quick references and understand what they're alluding to. Okay, and then finally a quick summary for part 5. So the firemen are just kind of hanging out at the station. The radio states that the country is just about to go to war. And as that announcement comes over the radio, fighter jets fly over the station. Montag looks around and he starts to realize that all the firemen look the same. I am not entirely sure if they actually all look the same or if Montag is just seeing them in a new light to where they, because of their profession and what they stand for, they look the same just to him. It's not really made clear. It's kind of open to interpretation. Montag gets inquisitive and he's asking Beatty some questions. He asks Beatty, what happens to the book owners after their houses are burned down? And Beatty, that's when he says that they go to an insane asylum. And Montag is still feeling inquisitive and he asks about the history of firemen. And he asks if they have always started fires. And then he kind of is like, well, how would we feel if someone burnt our house down? Like, wouldn't that make you sad? And again, that's that empathy that other people in this world don't have. So Montag is starting to more and more stand out like a sore thumb. More and more be like, what's up with this dude, you know? He's raising suspicion because he's so kind of starting to be out of the norm. So they get a call and they all leave. The mechanical hound jumps up and, runs with them. They arrive at the house they're going to burn. It's a very old house, and it has like its plastic fireproofing shell on it. So the men barge into the house. They start ripping down cabinets and they're looking for all these books, and of course they find them. The books are falling on them, just thousands of books. They start spraying everything with kerosene, which if you remember is that oily fuel. So they get the kerosene, they're drenching the house. There's something different about this time though, this call. The woman is still there who owns the books. Normally the owners of the homes have been arrested, taken off to the asylum well before the firemen ever get there. This is a unique situation in that the owner of the house is still there. And she just kind of is glaring at them in silence as they're doing what they're doing. Montag, while they're raiding the house and getting these books, he finds a small book and he takes it and he shoves it in his jacket to keep for later, which obviously is like a huge no-no, but he's doing it anyways. So they cover the house in kerosene. They're like telling the woman, like, you got to get out of here. We're going to burn this thing to the ground. Like, get out. And she's like, no, I'm staying. Montag is the only one who tries to gently reason with her. It's like, you're going to get hurt. You have to leave. We have to go. And she tells him, no, go ahead without me. She grabs a match. As the firemen are watching from the front yard, she strikes the match and the whole house just goes up in flame. The neighbors all run out to see what's going on. The woman has chosen to burn with her books. So that is where the chapter ends. Montag is very shaken up by this because not only was it out of the norm, but he's starting to empathize with these people who have books in a way that he didn't used to. He used to be able to do his job guilt-free, and now he's starting to feel this immense amount of guilt for because he's able to empathize with these people now. So that is it for part 5. I will see you all for part 6 very soon.